All right, and welcome to the Research Triangle PowerShell user group. This is going to be our April 1st meeting. This is April Fool's Day, so we want to kick it off with a little fun with all the things that are happening in the world today. We want to bring some fun back to your life, and what better way to have fun but with PowerShell itself. So tonight we have Steven Judd for us, who is a security analyst. Certainly got a ton of great stuff, and he's a great personality and a good guy. So want to hand it over to Steven. Steven, you're up.
Thanks, Phil. This presentation was a throw together that I had from last year's PowerShell Summit, where I had some ideas, and I've just been adding to them kind of as I went along. And part of the fun that we have with PowerShell is to get our work done, get it done quickly, get it done efficiently, get it done correctly. But while we're doing that, we can also do some other stuff with it. And so let's kind of poke around at the edges. And while we're doing that, I'm also going to go over some fundamentals that we can use and we should be using as part of our PowerShell. So if I can get my clicker to work here. Here we go. Who am I? I am Steven Judd. I'm a multi-year, multi-discipline IT pro. It's kind of hard to describe all the stuff I've been involved in, but mostly I've been on the administration and operations side. I am definitely a PowerShell enthusiast, and I'm also a dad joke enthusiast, if there is such a thing. So you have now been warned. The rest of this video, you have signed the agreement by attending to your consent. I'm also a fashion icon. Moving on. Oh, see, this is the problem with mute. I can't get a feel for the audience. No one in my room is laughing.
It's good, man. Just
that
keep
was a
going.
good chuckle, man.
All right, here we go. Rolling on, moving on. So what did you come to see? This is what you came to see. Well, actually, I'm not actually going to present what you came to see, but this is what I'm presenting. So computers, as I said, they can be fun, and PowerShell can be fun, and pranks can be fun. So, but be careful, because I am not responsible for your resume generating event or your career limiting moves. Some nice TLAs for you. And dad jokes. So let's jump right into it. Let's get some dad jokes rolling in here. Skinny ghosts are either scary or they're not. They're Boolean.
Oh.
That was a groan.
Yeah, I felt it. Even from here, I felt that one. All right. So demo number 1. I'm going to prove to you that 6 is greater than 7 using PowerShell. All right, so let's see if I can jump myself over to here. And is that big enough, or should I make the font a little larger?
A little bit larger. Just one more.
I was going to say, it looks good to me. So
we're going to go up to 24.
Looks awesome.
There we go. All right. So, demo launch. Got to maximize my window as I'm following my instructions and press enter to continue. So, using PowerShell to prove that 6 is greater than 7. 6 is greater than 7. So this will now run that command, 6 is greater than 7, and there's our result. True. Now, I'll get to how that worked in just a second, but just know that every time I do a command, it's actually running the command. All right, so let's move on. But what about 6 greater than 7? Is that true? That is also true. That was 6 greater than 7. Okay, but you are familiar with PowerShell and you know about left to right typecasting. So if I do the number 6 greater than 7, and we run that command, we get an invalid argument error. Okay, so let's keep going, because of course this will work. 6 is greater than 7. And that is false, because now we have our numbers right. So why is 6 greater than 7? PowerShell is using a numeric value for the string content. I assume it's ASCII code. I don't actually know that part. Thus, alphabetically, SI comes after SE. And because it comes after, it's a higher number, therefore, it's greater. So what have we learned? You can use comparison operators on string content. Just make sure you're comparing like types. So the left to right casting where we got the error, types weren't the same, and so it tossed an error. What is our best practice? Make sure you cast your variables to ensure you get the results you expect. Now all we have to do is figure out why 6 is afraid of 7.
Oh God, I know it already.
You knew that one was coming, didn't you? All right. So that was pretty cool. Did you like my PowerShell point presentation?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that code. Roll back over here. All right, so let's talk about the fundamentals. Wait, no, I don't want to do fundamentals yet. I want to look at the code first. So let me get over to here. And so what this was doing in the demo is it was doing an import module on set console font. So that's how I had it automatically increase the size of the font. So it runs this set console font for this font, height 36. That's what made it big, right? And then it said, please maximize the console with a pause. And then it ran start PowerShell point function. Okay, so let's look at the start PowerShell point function right quick. And I say right quick because this one, start PowerShell point function. Here we go. Get this out of the way so we can get back to the code. What this is doing is it's just writing a bunch of text to screen. And it has a content path. And the content that it's loading is slide content. Now, when I wrote this, I kind of hard-coded everything. So if I go down to the bottom, what it's actually running is this command right here. Start PowerShell point, and it's starting in the root and getting 6 is greater than 7 CSV. So if we go look at 6 greater than 7 CSV, oops, I gotta get back over here. You can see that it's title, content, and command. And then it's using PowerShell to prove that 6 is greater than 7. So there's my first title. And then 6 greater than 7 is my content. And then yes. So whenever there's a yes in there, didn't my thing say it? I got to get back to the function. So down at the bottom of this code here, whenever slide command is true, it actually runs the command by using invoke expression. Other than that, a lot of the code is in here building the header, then putting the content up, and then figuring out through some math, okay, how is the size of this window? So if you have a different font size, it'll still try to put the content at the top and scroll and get everything to match. And that's that.
I want to say that's pretty cool. I like the flow.
Yeah. So then fundamentals. So fundamental number 1, notice how I had it open up another window because you don't want to be abusive to your users of your code. You don't want to change their defaults. You don't want to mess up their preferences. And you don't want to mess with their history. I practically grind my teeth every time I see clear host or clear history in scripts. And I've seen them because people are like, oh, I want my screen clean. Like, great, that's great for you, but don't do that to other people. Watch out for scope creep. Can you imagine the amount of scope creep that I had to fight my way through on that start PowerShell point function? Oh, I thought it'd be cool if it did this. I thought it'd be cool if it did that. No, keep it simple. There is PowerShell, there's PowerShell for PowerShell, and there's PowerPoint for PowerPoint. Don't try to do it all in one. So no gold plating. Working code is working code. And put some notes in there, specifically as comments. And then you can come back to it later and go, I'd like it if this was better, or what if my line, I don't know if you noticed one of my slide lines was pretty wide and it broke right in the middle of the word. And I wasn't that crazy about that, but I couldn't go back and figure out, okay, well, if it breaks across the width of the thing, I need to go find a space, and turned into a ton of work. Okay, so that was lightning round number 1. Dad joke number 2. Why do calligraphy artists make good computer programmers? And recursive development.
Another groaner.
That's what dad jokes are supposed to do.
That's just the fuel. That's all right. Okay, so use your laptop as a personal heater. Why would you want to do this? Well, has anyone ever been in a conference room where it was just freezing and you were starting to turn into that guy? All right, let's take a look at that. Demo 2. Okay. This is now starting the heater. Well, you can't really see much, and not much is happening. But just trust me that CPU utilization is starting to climb. As the CPU utilization climbs, on a laptop specifically, what is it going to do? It's going to try to cool itself off. So it's got to expend that heat somewhere, so it comes out the vents. See where I'm going here? That's really it. So what this is doing is it's running a process and it's creating a load on the computer in order to generate heat. Something else it's doing, which I was hoping I would talk long enough to actually see it do it. There it is. Every minute that passes by, it's putting a dot up here. That's to let you know that it's still running, besides which you can feel the heat. So I'm going to Control C to quit out of that.
So your fan is just spinning like a beast, or was?
Actually, it's not. It only ran up these 2 cores, and the rest are kind of normal. Now, that's what's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because when I wrote this heater application, and we'll look at the code in a minute, but when I wrote it, oops, what am I doing here? I gotta get to, don't want to lose where I'm at. It was on Windows 7, and it was a different laptop. And man, it pegged that CPU at the top on Windows 7. I get Windows 10, and Windows 10 goes, calm down now. You can't do that to me. I still need to be functional. I'm like, no, okay, it made it better. So I wrote demo 2. So here's version number 1. Notice how I put some help text in here to tell you how to use it. And this is all it's doing. Sets I to 1, while 1 is less than 2. Get date on the minute, and write a dot in there. So every minute it puts up a dot. Well, that's great and all, but it didn't actually help me out by getting the max that I wanted. So I had to improve it. And improving it made it look like this. Get that back out of the way. Notice I'm now asking it, how many logical processors do you have? And I got an error check here to see if there's more cores than available. And I start some jobs. And I set the priority to below normal, because I don't want to wipe out my operating system. So I check the initial process, and then I set it to whatever the process is. And then for each item in the job, I start a thread, and it starts up a heater, and then it puts up the same message, and then it gets to work. So let's see what this one looks like. Oh, we might as well just go for it, right? Forgot that I opened the code through that process. Okay. And I didn't load my code like a rookie. Start SJ heater function. Well, I did that version 1. I needed version 2. There it is. Now let's see what this thing does. I think there's a bug in my code because the cores should be 8, but it only started 1 job. Let me try that again with 4. Yep, bug in my code. It's weird. It was working, worked on my machine. I better stop that. I might get into trouble if I try to troubleshoot this along the way here. But one of the things it's doing is it's looking for that key press where I say press spacebar to quit. I'm looking for the read key for that spacebar. And then when it does, it goes in and looks for the jobs that have heater at the beginning of the word or at the name, and then it stops the job and removes them. Otherwise, if you forget about that, this thing's going to go crazy on you. I'm not sure why that chorus isn't working.
So Steven, let me ask you a question. So interesting stuff. So the stuff that you have here, like key press, are these things that you're using at work on a regular basis? And the reason I'm asking is because if there's someone who's on the call right now is like, wow, that's interesting. How did he find that? I'm just wondering if these are things that you're familiar with or how you go about finding these interesting sort of things that you could use, like the responses from the keyboard and things.
Now that's a really good question. So usually when I'm thinking about this kind of stuff, it's something that I know that I want to do and something I want to see whether it can do it. And so like on the key press, if you put pause in there, pause will say press enter to continue, and that's what heater 1 does, right? It's actually this one's using control C because it's just an infinite loop. It'll never stop. So I told them to put control C in there to do that. On this one, I wanted something a little more fancy, so I just went to Google. I said, let's look for key press. Also, I believe it's the idea PowerShell.com. They do PowerShell tips and tricks that come in your email. And so maybe I saw one of those and it just stuck in my memory. And I went, oh yeah, I need to go look for that. And then someone puts out an example. So that's usually where I come up with these ideas. Usually it starts with something like, hey, I wonder if I can do that. And then you go look for it. Stack Overflow.
Gotcha.
I think one of the things I've seen with KeyPress is actually I saw somebody, and it was an interesting way to do it, but they load their profile using also they put KeyPress in there, and so it will skip a bunch of functions inside your profile, or it will add a bunch of if you depending upon what keys you're holding when you start PowerShell. So if you can hold the shift key when you launch PowerShell, yeah, and then it won't show it won't load a bunch of modules. It's almost like the hold shift to not do stuff. And it was a certainly interesting way to launch PowerShell with a bunch of other functions involved and solve.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I just realized what the problem is. This says cores. It's not cores. It's jobs. There we go. There's a bug in my documentation down here where these should all say, all right, I'm not going to fix that now, but let's take a look at what it's doing now that I have more cores running. Ta-da. And yes, if I let this one go, this is going to get my fan going. So let me get back over here and do spacebar. And now if I do get job, you can see that there are no heater jobs running. Okay. You know what? Let's talk about the fundamentals. Avoid endless loops, unless that's what you're actually after. Think about performance for your script. If you have to have a long-running process, pay attention to the load that it puts on a system. So, it's back to the be nice to your users. Use jobs or multi-thread in order to get the maximum capacity from a system. So there may be something like when I originally wrote this for Windows 7, it maxed it out. Well, then it goes to Windows 10 and it doesn't max it out because it's only writing it to one core. So then you need to multi-thread or come up with something else to work. And then what used to work may stop working due to updates or upgrades. Oops, went pretty fast. Okay. Now that you've been wowed with how to turn your laptop into a personal heater, let's do another dad joke. A developer is flown to the space station. He goes into a bar, holds out his credit card, and asks for a drink. The bartender looks at him and goes, "Haven't you read the style guide? This is a spacebar site. No tabs."
Ooh.
Wah, wah, wah.
Well, I'll let the dust settle on that one for a little bit.
It's just
We're going to
horrible.
roll into demo number 3 because PowerShell can talk to you. This is what we always wanted, right? Demo 3. Oh, I forgot to do something here. And look at all the red and errors. Ooh.
Those are PowerShell 7 errors. They're nice and succinct.
I was
Yes.
going to say,
Good.
Mike, hey, don't you like those errors? Like,
Yes.
Penis 7
yes.
errors.
All right, so I got to get back over to the meeting because I forgot to turn on this part. Okay, turn on live captions. There's supposed to be a setting to allow sounds to go through. Does anyone know where that
I
is?
think it's the device settings there.
Device settings.
No, it's going speaker through your headphones. Top or speakers, or is there another audio device?
Yeah, I looked this up before, but I didn't actually, it's supposed to be right here where it says sound played on mine will play through. I even looked that up because it was a Microsoft Teams thing.
Well, the thing is, I'm using PowerShell.org's Teams account, and it's whatever they enabled. So that they may have it shut off, which
Okay,
stinks at
well,
demo time, right?
yeah, because if my computer is talking to me and the microphone isn't playing through for feedback reasons, that's going to make the demo pretty lame. Oh well. Oh well, lame it is. We're moving on. So this was a little disconcerting because I saw it do all this stuff, and I said, okay, well, let me see if I can figure it out. So I wrote a second function, and as you pointed out, we've got some helpful text here. It contains a require statement, and what require statement says, you have to run it on desktop. Aha, desktop. All right, very good. So what I really need to do is I need to run it here. Did anyone hear that?
Nope.
No. No. We just heard you talking. That's it.
Okay. Well, it's not going to play through, unfortunately. That's very sad. So, by the way, I'm going to make all this code available to everyone so you can run the demo. But what it's saying is, where's my text? Where is my text? Demo 3. Where's demo 3? It's very disappointing. I really wanted that. It's saying, Dave, what are you doing, Dave? Okay. So let's take a quick look at the code. It's disappointing that it doesn't play through, but whatever. This first code was I wrote this back in 2016 because I was dorking around, kind of like what Mike said, was I came across something that said, oh, you can use the speech synthesizer. I'm like, cool, let's use the speech synthesizer. And so you add the type, and then I create a new object. I don't have any clue why I said to sleep for 2 seconds. That doesn't seem to make any sense. And then I got my voices, and then I add the type again. Thank you for having mistakes. By the way, I left the mistakes in my code on purpose to show that everyone makes them. And then selects the voice, and it speaks the phrase, disposes, and it's done. Hey, that's great, but this thing blew up and I couldn't figure it out for a little while. So when I went to version 2, we'll go up to the top, and we'll take a look at my commandment binding. And now I have a phrase and I have a voice. And I validate the set of the voice because this is a good idea. And then I added error handling. I said, try assembly type, system assembly name, system speech, and then install. And if it doesn't work, you want to say, hey, you're not able to load this. What else did I do on this? Up at the top, I said this requires PS Edition desktop. This right here means that it will not run on PowerShell Core. And so because PowerShell Core does not have the system speech and the synthesis speech synthesizer, this doesn't work in PowerShell 7. Well, then instead of having an if, else if, I did a switch on the voices. This I left in here just to point out that because I'm using parameter validation, it'll never go to default because right here, I'm validating my set. Okay. And then I removed the redundant code and I added a check to see if the voice was installed. So if the voice was actually installed, you could pick a name that you don't have installed. And then I wanted to give a nice error. Hey, by the way, that voice is not installed. So see how I took a code that I wrote 4 years ago and just kind of retooled it a little bit and made it better. All right, so let's step out of these. No, I'll fix those later. Okay. Oh, and here's the demo 3. It's just running the commands and then coming back to the code. Back to the presentation. So let's talk about the fundamentals. PowerShell can access the speech API. It can load any .NET assembly. Just make sure you check your .NET versions and make sure that it's supported for the console or the systems that you're running on. Do use parameter validation. Use error handling, because that is good. And speech can deliver a distinct notification for long-running background tasks. So if you have a task that you run in your code and it goes forever, then you can put this speech API chunk of code in there. And when it's done, you can have it tell you, hey, Phil, I'm done. I have the answer you were looking for. Of course, it'll be 42, but at least they'll have the answer.
Woohoo.
This functionality could be quite handy for those with vision issues as well. So you can use the speech API. You can have one of your commands output content and then pass it into a function that you wrote to say read content, as in like actually read content out loud, and use the speech API to read the results. I thought that was pretty cool.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Brace yourselves, because these may get better, these may not get better. You're on your own. Why wasn't BeOS ever destined to release a second version? People remember BeOS?
Yes, sadly.
Okay, so you should know the answer, right? Because instead of to BeOS, it was not to BeOS.
Oh, God.
I like that one better.
That was good. I like that one.
It's not really a question, is it? No.
That one actually was a good one.
That was a good one.
All right. PowerShell can play music. Who doesn't love music? Well, more like nay sick, but whatever. Now, you might be able to hear this one because this one's going to use the system beep. So just, yeah, brace for more awfulness. All right, let's see where we're at here. Let me get out of this. Yes. So demo 4. Can you hear this?
Yeah.
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 Yes.
Oh, it's kind of horrible, but it is playing. All right. Let me make this. I made a note here, and I realized I just screwed up my own demo. It's so sad when that kind of thing happens, because this right here, this YouTube window, is keeping the sound alive. If I don't have that open, what this sounds like is something horrible.
Oh, I see. I hear it now. That's a melody.
So what I'm pointing out here is there's an actual,
Star Wars.
okay, shush, machine. Turn it back down. So this is what it's doing. It's calling this sjtune function, and it's got some inline functions. So one is get frequency. I'll talk about that in a minute. Then it gets half steps. And then there's start the tune. And so you have your choice of Imperial March, Jingle Bells, or Jeopardy. And then Imperial March, here's your notes in a here string array. And then here's Jingle Bells, and here's Jeopardy. And then you get down to the code that actually does the stuff. And you can already see some problems. Like I said, I left in problems, so just to point out that not all code is perfect and there are some issues. Like this is never used. This one says it's never used, but it is actually used, which I think is kind of odd. It's possibly a bug in the script analyzer. So it goes through the notes and splits them, and then for each one, it goes to figure out what the frequency is for the note, and then the duration for the note. And on the get frequency, which was up above, up here, get frequency, it's using a regex match to figure out what the note is. All right, so let me go grab this right here, because I kept this kind of together. Because I wanted to look at it. And I'll say, here is our regex expression, and here is our note. So it is a, I think it's third octave E flat with a quarter note duration or something like that. Problem is the regular expression doesn't recognize this note. If I do that, it does recognize it. If I do sharp, it recognizes that. But the flat doesn't work. However, you guys all heard it, it played. So what is wrong with my regex? What I wanted to point out here is even though this is capital A through capital G and the sharp key, match is case insensitive in PowerShell. So you really need to be careful when you're doing your regex, because this will take the flat because B is in between A and G. Okay, this would take more time to explain. I really don't want to spend too much time on this. The other thing I wanted to point out, which how version 1 played pretty well and version 2 didn't, there's actually a bug in the audio driver on Dell laptops for Windows when you're doing the system beat, that if there's background audio playing, it works fine, but if nothing is playing, it plays terribly. I showed this to the Dell guys. They're interested and didn't care at the same time. Okay, let's talk about the fundamentals we learned. So there's obviously better options for music playback. And using a module, oh, I didn't talk about this, but if you use a module, you can choose not to expose all the functions, yet they're still available. So let me jump over there and just make sure I covered that. sjtune. So down at the bottom here, I used export module member to just export the tune function. But the get frequency and what was the name of the other one? Get half steps. Both of those are still working because get frequency calls get half steps. So those work, but you don't have to call them directly. And you don't have to expose them to the PowerShell console. I mentioned this already, but be careful with regex and your case. Most regex tools are case sensitive where the match operator is not. Okay, now that I've wowed you with the Imperial March beeping through my computer, it's time to make some more groans by asking, what type of cables do Canadians use to charge their devices? Oh, it's already started. I can feel it. USB, eh?
USDA.
Man.
Oh,
There
nice,
we
Mike.
go. There we go. I really hope it. Adil, are you on this call? I hope so. All right, demo number 5. You want to rickroll your coworkers and friends, don't you? Most of you guys have probably seen this one. I don't know if you can hear it. I'm going to put the microphone right up on the speaker. All right, that's enough of that. Did you hear anything?
No.
That needs no sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it does play Rick Astley, the Rick Astley song. We've seen that probably, if you've been in PowerShell at any time, you've seen that version wandering around plenty of times. But did you notice anything odd about my version? Well, it wasn't the audio that gave you your clue. It's the fact that it popped up in its own window. So here's how I did that. I used start process to launch that thing. Let me get rid of this so we can see a little more of this command. Okay, so I'm using splatting here for the fun PS1, and it has a file path of PowerShell, and then I'm doing an encoded command with no profile, so it loads really fast. That's the nice thing about doing the no profile. And then it does the start process. That's it. So if I go back over here and I just do fun, it actually loads it in a new window. If I did not have this thing load in a new window, shut up, Rick. Okay, if I did not have it load in a new window, but I actually ran the encoded command, which is this right here, it would change the size and the font and the colors of my existing console. So that's why I had it do an encoded command. Plus, you can send somebody fun PS1 and say, hey, you should run this, it's fun. And they run it and the thing pops up and they're only half mad at you instead of really mad at you. Okay. Read code before running code. If I send you fun PS1 and you look at this, you may go, yeah, no. I am not going to run that because what does this do? Right? That's good security. Expand base 64 encoding. So if you do expand the base 64 on that, you get invoke expression, invoke web request, and then that. So that's a good idea. Hey, while you're at it, expand your URLs. I don't have an example of that, but if you're looking at a bit.ly link, you might want to expand that sucker so that you know exactly where you're going and what you're going to be doing. So more good security principles. Version control your script so that nobody can sneak in code that will do the invoke expression on you. And combine your functions to achieve the desired result. So invoke expression, invoke web request, and I wrapped both of those in a start process so that the window would open up itself. Very useful to have things open up like that. Any questions on that?
No, I think there's just a lot of growth, and there's a potential in some of those. And so I think there's so many things that you've brought up so far, It's a matter of, hey, there's all these little tidbits of, good things that, it's
Oh, yeah.
pretty good.
Okay. All right. Well, remember from demo number 1, I did forget this note. Don't be abusive to your users. Okay. Speaking of abusive to your users, dad joke number 6. What did Captain Kirk yell when debugging his application code? Come!
Oh no.
Anybody who's worked with COM has made that face. I promise you. So, if you really want to be messing with people and you're going to send them a Rickroll, or you just want to get your computer set up for your demonstration that's going to fail because you can't put your audio through to the remote system because even though you looked it up, you forgot it anyway. I promise you, I did look that up. You want to adjust your volume programmatically. All right, so let's take a look at demo number 6. Demo 6. Go, demo 6. Oh, yeah, for this one, I need to open the mixer. So let me get the volume mixer here. Not that one. Oh, this one. All right, I'm going to try to see how am I going to do this. I'm going to shrink this window. There we go. Okay. Behold the mixer. Turn the sound off. Turn the sound to max. Mute that sound. See the little icon change? Unmute the sound. Is that cool? But what if we made it better? Let's go look at the code for what's happening here. Thanks and credit go to Ed Wilson. That's where I stole this code. I just had this idea. I said, oh, I wonder if you can adjust the sound on a computer programmatically. Yes, you can. So here's what he did. He put 2 switches in there, min, max. And then he does this COM object. I thought that was appropriate for the Captain Kirk joke. Then if it's min, he presses the sound down button, which is character 174, and he's using send keys to just mash it 50 times. Or if it's max, he presses the sound up. If he doesn't do either one of those, then it's the mute toggle button. And that's the code. But I said, what about making it better? If you're going to make it better, you make it yours and you make it better. So you say, all right, modified by Steven Judd. And I did a validate set because I like parameter validation. I like this better than doing a switch for min and a switch for max. And so I want my choices. And I added mid. So I did this exact same thing, and I put a switch in here instead of a if block. And I say if it's min, do the same thing. If it's max, do the same thing. If it's mid, go down all the way, then come back halfway. And then mute does the same thing, all in a switch.
So Stephen, let me jump in there for a second.
Yeah, do it.
So someone's not muted. you just glazed over a lot there. For the uninitiated, talk about that validate set a little bit and what that actually means for choices.
Okay. Let's actually run this right here in the VS Code. All right, so we did here. And I'm going to do set speaker volume. I want the actual command. Oh, by the way, that is a thing that I do. Notice this, set speaker. So his was set speaker volume.ps1. I put dash function in mine. Here's why. When you're in the directory, the first time you hit tab, it finds the file first. Usually the file name is the same as the function name. When you hit it again, it goes to mine, which is dash function v2 and then you hit it again and you get the actual function itself. The reason I put dash function in my file names is to make it obvious that this is the file, this is the PowerShell function.
That's pretty handy. I get burned by that all the time.
All right, thanks. So now I'm going to do
Good tip.
dash. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, good tip. Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome. I had another thought, but I'm going to save it for later. So I'm going to do dash and do control spacebar. In this one, it only has one parameter, so I didn't get a list of them. And I don't have the commandlet functions in, I don't have the advanced commandlets enabled. So you don't get things like what if or write verbose or whatever. So then you go to level. I'm going to hit space. Now I'm going to do control space again. And you can see, because I have validate set in my parameters on this parameter, it only gives me the choices that I have selected or I have set in here. And this is a comma separated array of strings for validate set. It also brings them up alphabetically. So if you look, I've got min, max, mute, and mid. Look what it does here. Max, mid, min, mute. No, you can't change this. All right, so now if I say, let's see, let's go to max. Oops, max, and hit enter. And if you look up here, it went to 100. If I do mid, goes all the way down and then bounces right back up to 50. Cool, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, that's cool.
Let me get back, because if you thought that was cool,
So the tab completion, that was PS readline, right? That's what that was, to do the shift space,
it's control space.
control space
And
there.
yes, that's PS readline.
And that's
Available since version 5.
Yep.
Okay, so let's take a look at demo 6.1. So let's open the mixer back up and get back to my mixer here, because we want to see this thing do its business. And we're going to press enter to continue on this. Whoops, I just messed up and closed the mixer, because that's what had focus when I pressed enter. Okay, back to the mixer. Sorry about that. Open volume mixer. There we go. Okay, make sure this window has focus. Press enter to continue. Check your volume. See that? This one went instantaneously. So I'm doing something different here. This one, I went and when I did my Google exploring for how to make this work, I found nircmd.exe tool from Nirsoft. And so what it's doing is it's creating a temporary file name. Then it converts text to binary. Ooh, looky, looky. It does SoundFun, which is the path to this SoundFun exe in the temp directory, mute sysvolume. That's kind of interesting, don't you think? Because what this is doing is it has converted this exe right here to this. What this means is that you can actually embed files into your PowerShell script, decode them at runtime, and use them. So if you have a DLL, like for example, some people have been using the Exchange DLL for email, you can actually take that DLL, compile it into text, embed it in your script as an asset, and then re-enable it as a DLL at runtime, and then use it. I thought that was pretty cool.
That sounds like a major security loophole.
That's why you audit your scripts, because you'd see that content in there.
Yes.
So you'd see that big block of binary, like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, well,
'Cause you'd have to
obviously
decode it.
I'm using this command right here, convert text to binary, and then I'm saying here's sound fun. So that anybody who goes and looks at sound fun and goes, what is this? Now, of course, when you pull it out, it's an exe. So yes, security, it's important. The point of this is using an executable that someone wrote in order to adjust the sound instead of relying on pressing keys, because send keys is notoriously fickle, especially if some other application immediately grabs the focus. So send keys can do all kinds of crazy stuff, different apps. So that's why I went this route. Yeah. All right, so that's that. I think I covered most of the stuff in this one. We'll close that out. And okay, we're back to, let's see, where are we back to? We're back to this. So our fundamentals. If you can do something on your PC, there's probably a way to do it with PowerShell. You're just gonna have to dig, and it could be ugly and hard to accomplish, but you can do it. And it may be worth the effort if you go digging into it and you say, you know what? I do this enough that this drives me crazy, and I need this to work the same way every time. That's what PowerShell does for us. I did note that send keys can be very useful, especially if you're dealing with browser-based Java tools. We had Novell's meta directory at our organization, and I dropped in on one of my coworkers one night about 6 o'clock and was like, hey man, how's it going? He's like, I'm going to be here forever. I'm like, what are you doing? And he was going through this ugly, janky Java interface, and he had to click and click and click, and then type some info in, and then click and click and click. I said, okay, give me 10 minutes on this. And I figured out how to do tab, 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 and space, and basically go through the Java tool. And then I piped all of that into send keys and passed it to users. And it took, he was calculating it was going to take 6 hours to get it done. We were done in 15 minutes. That's
Wow.
why you want to be able to automate your stuff. And sometimes send keys is the only way. So spend some time learning about that. And I showed you how to embed executable files, and Phil's head exploded because he saw the security hole there.
I think one of the interesting thing about send keys too is that you can do a lot with it, especially with other stuff. And you can, with some things you can even invoke directly to the console in a vCenter too. I saw somebody, use send keys to talk directly to the console through vCenter. So that was super awesome. So you could type into the console.
Yep, it's super awesome, but it is super fragile too, because focus matters. And anything that changes focus will break your send keys. Just know that. Okay, speaking of breaking, let's break for another dad joke. I like to use if $I null to cancel out code. It nullifies.
Oh, Jesus.
Come on now. That's some of my best stuff there. That tells you something about my stuff, doesn't it?
Oh, you got a clapping hands in the chat. There you go, clapping hands.
Hey, I'll say this. We still have 40 people in the meeting, so.
Oh, sweet.
They haven't walked away yet.
Let's see if I can get that number to go down some. All right. Oof. I did like that one though. All right, demo number 7. So we're going to combine scripts for the rickest of the ricks. Anybody watch Rick and Morty? Yeah, so we're going to do rickest of the ricks. Brace yourselves. Demo 7. Now, of course, you're not going to hear a dang thing, but it's going to blow my ears out. So we're going to pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Let's jam. Really shame. Oh my gosh. Okay. My family members are going, what is happening in that office? Oh, what?
There we go.
How did that play?
We got it now. It was low, but it was there.
I played it.
Oh, you.
told you I'd be there for you.
This is the April Fool's edition, right?
When we get done with this presentation, I'm going to go find that setting. I'm going to enable it and hopefully get everyone's ears bleeding just like mine did. So what did it do? It pumped up the volume and then played the Rickroll. And so now I want to set the volume back to normal. We can watch the speaker over here. Make sure my focus is right. And back to the mid. Ta-da! All right, so what is Rickest of the Ricks doing? Let me get these windows out of the way here. Says pump up the volume, and then it does the convert text to binary, load sound fun. Sound fun, by the way, is the one that maxes out the sound, and then it runs fun. That's it. It's effectively doing this down here. I don't know why there's a breakpoint there. Thank you, breakpoints, in a commented out section too. So it loads the sound fun exe from the temp location. Sorry, it sets the path in the temp location for sound fun, takes the text, converts it back to the exe, turns off mute, maxes out the volume, plays fun. That's what this is doing up here. So I got an earful of Rick. I took one for the team on that one. Okay, all right. Now, and at the end of my demo, let me pull up my demo there because that's kind of interesting. Let's see, is this demo 7? All right, so demo 7, run Rickest of the Ricks and set volume back to normal. And then I did the set speaker volume level to mid. Now notice I loaded mine because mine has mid and Ed's did not. And then I said, okay, pause, and then launch code with the Rickest of the Ricks so we could take a look at it. All right, that's 7. What else do we have? Fundamentals from that. So just like how you can pipe objects from one command to another, you can chain PowerShell functionality in order to create a solution. My solution here is to annoy the tar out of my coworkers, which is maximize their volume and then play Rickroll or Rick ASCII. This is what Don Jones calls a controller script, because the controller script lays out the steps that you're going to do, and then each one of those steps is calling other functions that do each one of those steps. This keeps your functions small and purposeful, which is what you want. It makes them easier to test, and it makes them a lot easier to troubleshoot because the function is very focused and it does the one thing that it's supposed to do. Also, I'm going to remind you again, you need to know what the code you are running is doing. Did anyone even look at the fun PS1 file? Well, in this case, I showed it to you, so you kind of know what it's doing. But if someone sends you this, you might want to look into it. Because what is Rickest of the Ricks doing? Let's look at that code. What is this doing? What is this doing? Right? It's good practices. Okay. Speaking of good practice, it's good practice to tell another dad joke. Might even be best practice, depending upon who you are. And so if you're me, it's best practice. Problem is, I really wasn't able to understand UDP. I didn't have the act for it.
Oh, you need to know network for that one.
Aha. Demo number 8. So if you thought the audio thing was hard to visualize, this one is impossible to visualize. So I'm gonna quote unquote show it to you anyway. This is really more of an intellectual exercise. What it's doing when I hit enter is it's going to max out the brightness of my laptop. Except it cannot be run because it needs PowerShell 5. Meanwhile, back over here where I actually have a PowerShell 5 instance, I'm still in this. Hey, it's playing Dave again to me because I never finished that demo. Sadly, you can't see the results. Okay, but let's look at the code, because you can see the code. So that was demo 7, we don't need that. Let's look at what this is doing. I'm setting a parameter, and how I like to validate all of my parameter blocks, I'm validating that this is a range, and the range is from 0 to 100. And I set a default value to 50. I personally like to avoid mandatory and then set a default value, but then allow the user to set their own value, especially for things like log files. So if you're going to define a log file path, I like to set the log file path so my script runs as expected, but then if the user wants to set a different path or a different file name for the log file, allows them to do that. Okay, I was digressing a little bit. There's really only 2 commands here. I'm going to get the WMI object from the root WMI for the monitor brightness method, and then I'm going to set the brightness to whatever the brightness is. And yes, I stole this code off the internet too, but there were like hundreds of examples of this, and I didn't really give any attribution because apparently everyone except me knew about this before I went searching for it. The key is that this won't run in PowerShell core or higher, 6 or higher is what I mean, PowerShell core, because it's using WMI object instead of sim. It's also not going to work on your Mac or your Linux workstation. So if you compare the outputs, so let's run this. I'm in PowerShell 7. Let's run this one. What it's using is this WMI monitor brightness methods. Ooh, easy on the scroll there, mouse. That method doesn't exist, so you can't call it because sim instance is different. So even though this is cool, it doesn't work. Okay, well, that was a little bit of a letdown. So because that was a little bit of a letdown, I'm going to give you another demo. Go back to here, demo 8.1. All right, demo 8.1. Install the Lumos module. I don't know if you've seen the Lumos module, but the Lumos module will set either dark mode or light mode on your laptop. And this does work on Mac or Windows. It's pretty cool. And you can't see it because I have the presentation running. Let me see if I can get this window to show up here. Yeah, here we go. Notice I am now in dark mode. Let me open this window. There we go. Dark mode. Wow. I don't know what just opened up there, but sure, why not? We do that. It goes back to light mode. The Internet Explorer is not responding. There we go. So I thought the Lumos module was really cool. It can do more stuff too. So you can do invoke Lumos. I'm going to do dash and the control spacebar so you can see all your options. You can exclude systems. You can exclude the Office apps. You can change your wallpaper. It's a really cool module. I suggest you look at it. The reason I'm showing you this, and the reason I did the other one for the how to adjust the brightness, is just like the sound. If you're going to go do a presentation, there may be a combination of a bunch of these commands that you want to run. And so when you're ready to do your thing, what you actually run is set presentation mode. By the way, I don't have this script written, but if you did, you would go in there and you'd say, okay, here's what I want to do for my presentation. I want to turn brightness all the way up. I want to turn the sound off. I want to disable Bluetooth because you're at a HackerCon. You should have done that anyway. You want to set your dark mode to light because it shows up better on presentations. You want to increase your font size. Remember, I showed you how to increase the font size of your console with another one, with another command. Okay. The point is you're trying to combination all these things together so that when you're ready to do the work that you need to be doing, everything is set the way you need it to be set. Okay, back to here. So the fundamentals is you want to shortcut your life. You want to be as fast and effective and as efficient as possible, especially if you're constantly doing repetitive tasks. And I already told you, since you can't see the brightness, it is pretty cool, by the way, to watch it increase and decrease the brightness on the laptop. And okay, that was a rugged, rough transition. What time is it? Okay, we're getting close. Shoo! Dad joke number 9. Why do Active Directory admins have a hard time seeing the big picture? They can't see the forest for the DCs.
Nice. Very nice.
You're welcome. Everyone either is a directory admin or knows an Active Directory admin. You're welcome to blister them with this one. Just have your good set of shoes on and laced up nice.
Wear a
Right.
knife.
Demo number 9. Put a dad joke a day in the window title. All right, let's take a look at this one. Is this one of my favorites? Okay.
This is how he gets his material.
No. All of mine is completely original. Every joke you've heard tonight, I wrote myself.
That's how you know they were so good.
Oh, man. Okay. So if you go to https icanhasdadjoke.com API, you can see that they have API examples for how to get the dad jokes. Okay. So what I did was pull that joke back. This pulled directly from that API. Why did the miner get fired from his job? He took it for granted. I just realized that this demo 9 is not going to give me the feel that I want, so I'm going to cancel all that. I'm going to do code. I'm going to do it this way. Demo 9 0, because I think it'll read better this way. So this was the command it ran. Curl, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to run this command. Runs the command. What did one wall say to the other wall? I'll meet you at the corner. Ugh, it's terrible. But it's running curl. Why did curl work? So I'm going to run this command, ls curl -r. Now, by the way, whenever I type into the console, I shortcut an alias like a maniac because I want to be fast. Don't put this into your actual functions or your codes or your scripts. Always expand. I'm explaining to you why I did this here because I'm simulating what I would type into the command line. All right, so let's run that. And that's going to run for a little bit. But it's going to point out that on Windows, I think Windows 10, I don't know at what point, it started shipping with curl. So it kind of blew my mind when I ran curl and it actually worked in Windows. I expected it in Mac, I had expected it in Linux, but wow, okay. Yeah, but this is PowerShell. We're here for PowerShell. Curl sucks, right? We don't want curl, we want PowerShell. So how do you convert curl to blah, blah, blah? All right, so I did this command next. I said, let's go find module curl. I figured someone did, oh, curl to PS. That sounds good. The 0.0 or 0.0.2. Ugh. Whenever I see that kind of stuff on the version, I get a little nervous. I'm like, okay, that version looks a little raw, so let's take a closer look at it. So I'm going to run that and do select star and go look through it and pipe it to more so it stay here. And oh, Anthony Howe, the Posh Wolf. I know that dude. He presented at Research Triangle PowerShell Users Group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it may be 0.2, but at least I know this dude writes good stuff and he's not going to mess my system up. So let's get out of that more here. I want to install that module. So I'm going to install the module into my current scope. I've already done this, so I better run it again just to make sure that I have it and that it'll work. I want to break my demo here. And so now I'm going to run his command, which is convert to invoke REST method, and I'm going to pass it the curl command. F8. And I get back this. Can I highlight? Yeah, there we go. Invoke REST method, pass it this. Yeah, okay, that's what I was looking for. So now I flattened it down into one line, and if I run that line, ta-da! What do you call an elephant that doesn't matter? An irrelevant. Yes, the ICANN has dad jokes are just as bad as mine. So now I'm going to take that result, now that I've got a command that actually gives it to me, and I'm going to put that into host UI raw window title. Okay, let me just copy this because this won't work very well in VS Code. So I'm going to run it here. And watch up here, posh get, PowerShell, et cetera. Boom, right? Oh, dang, what happened? All right, so I put this in my code. If you have posh get, you either need to disable it by running this command, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, now that it's disabled, let's see if I run this command again. And nearly impossible to see, so I will zoom. Where's my zoom? Zoom, zoom. Let's go, zoom. Oh, that's weird. Oh, there it is. Magnify. Zoom, there we go. It put the dad joke up here. It's difficult to say what my wife does. She says by the seashore. Man, these jokes really are as bad as mine. Okay, so that's cool, right?
Yep.
So that's it. But do you really want to run that command like all the time? No, because we want more jokes. And more jokes means we do this. 1091. Press enter to continue. That's a lot of press enters to continue. I don't think it did what I wanted it to do. So let me block back over there and take a look at what happened here. I'm just going to copy it because this should have run this thing, but it did not do it properly. So I'm going to grab this code, copy, I'm going to paste it into my thing here. Note what I'm doing. I'm changing my prompt function. I'm putting a bunch of code. We're going to look at the code in just a second. Put all that in there. And now, do not see, where's my dad joke? Got it? So this line right here is supposed to put the dad joke content in there, and then, oh, I know what it's doing. I'm sorry. I commented out that line and forgot. It's changing the title, but the title is so small you almost can't see it. So let me zoom that again up here. Reversing the car. Ah, this takes me back. So if I run this a couple more times, let me run this a couple more times, and then go back up here, you can see that it's supposed to be changing this command. Oh man, that zoom is hard. Okay, I guess I'm getting tired and this one's being a pain. Let me do this. Let me uncomment that line right there so it'll actually write it out. But let's talk through the code first before I do that. I'm setting the prompt and I'm going and getting the dad joke and I'm putting it into a global dad joke content because I don't want to keep going out and just hammering their website all the time. And so I set the joke frequency to 4, and I check to see if the mod or the history of my commands is mod 0 on joke frequency. So what this means is every 4 commands I enter into the, oh, that's why it wasn't updating, because I wasn't entering a command, I was just pressing enter. So it wasn't updating get history. Ah, see, I figured out what my own problem was. All right. So then what it does is it takes the invoke REST method for that dad joke API and puts it in the global value and then updates the window title. So if you really want to see it, which is what I just did here, I'm going to do a Control A, Control C here. I'm going to write this out to the prompt as well so we can see it much better than this ridiculously small content here. So we'll put that in there, and now you get the joke. Did you know crocodiles? Now notice, it's super small, I know, but it's the same. So if I do dollar global dad joke content, it's the same. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Do it again. Now we have a different one, because remember, every 4 commands it updates. What did the piece of bread say tonight? Butter me up. Same as the title. And that is what the dad joke title and prompt is doing. Let's see, was that the end of it? Let's see if I had, did I have a 9.1 or was that 9.1? Yeah, that was 9.1. Okay. Demo number 9.
Somebody said 9.2 needs to be like every 5th dad joke, we should read it out loud to the user.
Oh, yeah, you could totally put that in there. That would be awesome. So there again, it's someone thinking, hey, let's chain our commands together. Let's chain our functions together and develop something new. So you may want to familiarize yourself with the host object, specifically host UI raw UI. That's where I got the window title. That's also where I got the window height and the window width. And you can also check the window font. So there's a lot that you can get from the host object. You can bring to focus specific information in the window title. So what is important to you, the PowerShell user, can be unique. Wait, before I go on to the next one. It may be very important for you to know the disk space on a particular server. You could check the disk space in your prompt and put that in your title so that every time you run a command, it's just, hey, I'm checking the disk space. I'm just keeping you informed. And so anytime you want to look at the title, it's an idea. Maybe you want it to do that. However, remember the heater act. You got to beware of performance drags by putting too much work and too much effort into your prompt. Okay? And you want to be nice to the providers of your information. No spamming the APIs. So instead of getting a new dad joke every time, I put a counter in there. Now I used 4 because I'm doing a demonstration and I wanted you to be able to see the change. Usually, depending upon how many PowerShell commands I'm going to do, I would set that to 10. So I'll get some varied results on the dad jokes, but I don't just hammer away every time I'm hitting a command. Because think about if you put that out to, I don't know, all of your users in a group policy where that becomes their prompt. Yeah, you don't storm people's APIs. Okay, dad joke number 10. What do you call it when computer people won't say goodbye? Binary.
Binary.
Yes, dad joke number 10. Okay, let's talk about our closing thoughts and let's wind this sucker down. Don't forget to continue to add to your existing skills. Remember, you have skills already. Everyone listening to this, whether you're a complete noob or an expert, you have skills, but you can always add to your skills. You just got to make a committed decision that you're going to add your skills and get busy doing it. I got into technology because I enjoyed it. It can be really hard to enjoy work and life right now. That's why when Phil asked me to do the April Fools, I was like, cool, And then the worst life outside my house got, I was like, man, I'm glad we're doing some jokes. Even though they're groaners, they're jokes, man. Generally speaking, we do see what we're looking for. So actively look for fun and joy. Make that the focus for your eyes, that you are looking for how to have fun and how to get joy out of the work that you're doing. And sometimes life's just tough and you got to fight your way through, but do actively look for the fun. And I truly hope that tonight I brought you some knowledge along with some laughs. However, if none of my jokes made you laugh, then no pun intended.
Oh. Boom.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very good. Very good.
Disclaimer, that one is not mine original. So all the other ones were Steven Judd originals. That one right there I stole, and I was like, oh, sweet, I've got 10 of them. This will work perfectly. All right, please stay in touch. This is my Twitter. I'm at Steven Judd. I'm at JuddMissile7741, whatever those numbers mean on Discord. I do hang out in the PowerShell Bridge channel. I'm there frequently. You can hit me up there. There's my LinkedIn. There's my ICQ. Anybody that ever remembers ICQ?
Wow.
No, I'm not actually on ICQ, but look how low my number is. So yeah, thank you. My blog, it needs CSS help. I'm willing to accept any help that I can get on it because my tables look like trash, but I am trying to put helpful information out there. So my focus is more on getting people started in PowerShell and leveling up in PowerShell. The expert stuff, there's lots of experts. That's not my forte. I'm trying to get people excited and show them what the possibilities are. Take a look at my blog and I'll be putting more content up there. And then this PowerShell point presentation and all the code and the demos and all the stuff, if you want to look at it, it's out there right now on GitHub. That's my GitHub and the PowerShell point. I'm going to fix a couple of the demo codey things that didn't work right. Get that pushed up there. And that is the end of my presentation.
All right. Yeah, and then Stephen, I'll send a link to. We'll do a link back to that PowerPoint for the RTP SUG GitHub page. But yeah, thanks so much, Stephen. This was a great presentation. And anybody have any other questions, or even just it was great to just see so many different topics, and and the jokes were okay. I give you a 5 out of 5.
All right. Let's see. I'm gonna pull this slide down.
All right, so I think what we'll do is, hold on, we're gonna wind up the recording here. So we'll say thank you to Stephen for doing this tonight. Really appreciate it. As always, thanks for joining us, and catch more at the next meeting, and thanks for attending tonight.